everybody for that part of trying to get connected. We all have issues with technology once in a while. So thanks for being here. And I see Teresa, you're saying my guides through Gail have told me to write books as well. Oh, yeah, Teresa. Oh, speaking of Barbara, I finally wrote my first book. It's out. I published it.
How wonderful.
Here it is. You haven't known about it, but here's my first book, How I Learned to Fly a Spaceship.
Oh, that is great.
I mean, I know you have so many books out there. How many do you have right now?
I have 5. 5 books.
5 books.
And the funny thing is, I never, ever expected to write even one book. It just was not in my life scope. But it just came about because of the interests I have and the work that I was doing. The first one was on crop circles, because I'd been involved in crop circles for 10 years, going to England every summer for that.
Right.
And then somebody approached me and said, we need to write a book about crop circles. And that started that. That was a 2-year venture, but we finally got that one published. And then I thought, well, that's it. You know, that's wonderful that I've published a book without having expected to. And then the next one came up because of the regression working I was doing with the extraterrestrials. Mm-hmm. And one of my clients said, you know, we really ought to write a book about, you know, my experiences and many of the experiences that people have had who've come to you. So we did that. And then a few years later, a woman came for regressions, and she was very interested in getting information out to children about their ET experiences. So we decided to collaborate and write a book together called Kids' Adventures with ET Friends in Space. And then, let's see. Oh, and then Meet the Hybrids. I was very involved in getting to know people who are living here as humans, but they're hybrids. They have extraterrestrial genetics, and we were able to trace that all down in regressions and so forth. And so another man from England knew I was involved in meeting a lot of hybrids, and he suggested we write a book together, which we did, Meet the Hybrids. Mm-hmm. And then just last year, a year ago, Sheila Seppi approached me for co-authoring a book about walk-ins, starseeds, and hybrids, mm-hmm. called Cosmic Convergence, the name of that book. So, you know, it's just sort of evolved without my expecting it.
Yeah, well, I went kicking and screaming at it too, because I said, I am not a writer. I am not writing the book. And Teresa, she's right here saying she's going to be writing books. She's going and kicking and screaming too, but she's having so many experiences. It's time for her to start writing it down. But this was a long journey, and I had a hard time accepting that this had to be me that did this. I kept expecting some hero to come in my life and write it for me.
Right. Yes. That would be nice and easy. So what is the name again of your book? I want to get a copy.
How I Learned to Fly a Spaceship.
Great. That is really a fun title.
Yeah, it is.
Should get attention, I should think. And is that available on Amazon?
Yes, it's on Amazon. In fact, that's what surprised me. I just got a copy of my book today, and Amazon published it. The only way I knew that Amazon had published it, I'd put the information in, but I did not know it published it until a friend of mine called me and said, I just ordered your book. And that was probably at least 3 weeks ago. So everybody had the book before me.
Oh, that is funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think it's good to be published by Amazon. My book, Meet the Hybrids, is published by Create Space, Amazon publisher.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So each one of mine is, each one of my books is published by a different publisher.
Well,
So a little confusion to my life.
well, Teresa has a question for you, and I have a lot of questions for you.
Okay.
Teresa's saying, I have a friend who was traumatized by visitations. Can your gifts help heal? Now, I'm going to kind of answer that as it's not Barbara is very gifted, but letting somebody understand those visitations is the biggest thing on the not being as traumatized. How do you answer that, Barbara?
Right. Well, that was a good answer, too. What I do is regressions, hypnotic regressions with people so that they can go back to one of those traumatizing experiences and have a sense of reliving it and getting much more detail than they could have possibly consciously remembered. And when they do that, they so often realize that the experience really was not a bad experience. In fact, it might have been extremely helpful to them.
Right.
So that's the way that I help people to let them know from their own subconscious mind going into the regression, um, the details of what actually happened in that event. And it's very understandable for people to have had, the beginning few moments of an extraterrestrial experience. In other words, aware of unusual light in the room or unusual beings in the room or missing time experiences and having seen a UFO. So it's kind of a scary subject for many, many people because it's so unknown. And we can sort of assume that, oh, it must have been a terrible experience, that I remember only a very few moments of. But so often what happens in the regression is that people find that, yes, it is a very unusual experience for sure, and with very unusual beings. But in many cases, it's not been harmful. In fact, all the cases I know of, it has not been harmful for the person, and it may have even been very helpful for the person. But the thing is that they don't remember all of that part consciously, so they can write in to it, any kind of fear and apprehension they might have. So that's why I'm just so pleased to
That's
be
a
able
great
to do this work with thousands of people now. And it's been such a help for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
So,
That's
yeah.
a service that you have offered. But let's see. I see how Hypnosis, you're here. Thanks for joining us. And so are you, Play, Love, Remember. Thanks for joining us. But I have some questions for you, Barbara. Okay.
Okay.
So this is going to take us back, and this is kind of along what Teresa's asking. And I've written down 4 questions. And one of them is, what type of people usually show up for your regression therapy? Some of them is fear and traumatized, but how about the people who are curious, the ones that have had ET contact? What do you have more of, and what do the people look like when they're asking for your help on a regression therapy?
Okay. Well, first of all, many people are just very curious because they know that something mysterious has happened. Usually people remember, oh, just a minute or so at the most
Yeah,
of the beginning of an encounter, wherever that encounter started. Um, but uh, some people are traumatized by that. I can certainly understand that. And some people are not traumatized, but just very curious, like, what was that? I sense that something more happened after that first minute or so that I remember being confronted by these beings, and so they and they want to find out. I mean, they've been curious. Many times people come 20 or 30 or 40 years after one of these encounter experiences. And all of these years, they have been wondering about that. And then finally they find me one way or another and realize, oh, here's a way to really find out what happened that I don't consciously remember. So it's really great that we have this way to help people to get back into the details of those experiences. And it always answers a whole lot of questions that that person has had.
Well, here's Hypnicity saying she's afraid, and I'm assuming she's afraid of finding out about her experiences, or she's also afraid of going under hypnotherapy. And most people I know who are afraid of going under that kind of therapy are afraid of losing control, which we know that's not the case. You don't lose any kind of control. So how do you feel somebody like Hypnicity saying, I'm afraid of the information, I'm afraid of my experience, I'm afraid of going under hypnotherapy? How do you handle somebody like that?
Well, I can understand all of those concerns. Definitely. I think they're very normal concerns to have. But the hypnosis process, I want to emphasize, is really not being out or under or in a trance, as we get the impression from stage hypnosis. But this hypnosis therapeutically is just that I help you to go into a really nice state of deep relaxation. I take probably 15 minutes or so to help the person to just really deeply relax and be open in mind, open to whatever they will become aware of about one of those experiences. So when they're in the hypnosis, in the regression, they have awareness consciously to some extent of what they are experiencing and of what they are saying as they're reporting to me what they are aware of in that encounter experience. And they do remember a lot of that afterward, after the regression is over. But I do always encourage people to record the hypnosis session, the regression, on their cell phone or some means. If we do it on Zoom, sometimes people record it through Zoom, and it's very good to have a record of that for the person to go back and review if they don't remember every detail or want to be reassured about certain details that had happened. So anyway, the hypnosis process is very, very safe. And if a person finds in the experience, in the regression, that they don't want to go any further, they have every ability in the world to say, okay, that's enough. I don't want to go any further. And I help them to very safely come on back to regular, alert, awake consciousness. And that is extremely rare in my experience, because of the thousands of regressions, really probably 5,000 now, regressions I've done to people's extraterrestrial experiences, that I say almost every single one has wanted to go through the whole experience until they are returned again to wherever they were taken from, and they go on with their lives. So it really is a tremendous help to people to actually know the details of what happened with one of those mysterious events that they had been wondering about for a while.
I can address it from a client perspective, hypnosis. It's, for me, it feels like I'm going into meditation or very light sleep. You can immediately wake up from meditation. You can immediately wake up from a light sleep. You have control over that. I never felt like I was out of control. I felt like I was in control of the whole process. and Barbara, what you have mentioned, she's saying, I love your voice. She has this methodical way of going through it, and it's very gentle getting to you to the point where it's not scary, not pushy, not anything, but she does ask questions that points you in the direction that you're needing to figure out what's going on. And it is a very gentle process.
Oh, it is, and it's a very safe process. So the person in regression is aware of my voice, asking questions to bring out more detail, and they're aware of their own voice as they're reporting to me what it is that they are experiencing. So I always have the sense of leading the person back to reliving that experience that they had been wondering about. So if a person had an experience at age 6, let's say, and now the person is age 56, so we have the sense in the regression of going back to age 6 and reliving it from that point of view. It's not like looking back on something in the past tense and describing it now. It's actually much more of a sense of actually being that age that you were when the experience actually happened. And in that way, we get a lot more detail. And we certainly get to see the reactions of the person who is having that experience as they had had those reactions at that earlier age. So it's wonderful. No age difference, no number of decades or years that has gone by since the initial experience. None of that matters because we have the ability in this hypnosis process of going back directly into the sense of being that age and reliving the first few moments of the experience and further on into the whole experience, moment after moment. It's a fascinating process. It evolves just moment after moment. And we never know from one moment to the next what's going to be happening next.
Right.
It's sort of like an unraveling mystery.
Well, here's another question she has, hypnicity. And I know this is one of your specialties, but it's not exactly how she's asking it. She says, I want regression so that I can learn how to use my gifts effectively. Now, I know what you do. One of your big things is you tell people their purpose in life. So I think that's kind of would be helping hypnicity to find out her purpose or what she's supposed to be doing in her life to be able to use her gifts effectively. So it kind of, it's not exactly that hypnosis that she'll be doing, but it's finding out what you're supposed to be doing with your life. Is that correct, Barbara?
Yes, and yes, it is. And more and more people are coming to me for regressions for the purpose of knowing what their main life purpose is. So that person might be in his or her 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s and is at a point when he or she just simply has a sense, I've had a busy life doing everything that we all do, work and family and children and so forth. But I sense that there's something special that I'm supposed to be doing. And I don't think that I've gotten to that yet. I don't think I even know what that is. And it's wonderful that in the regression for that purpose, for finding out the soul's purpose for this particular lifetime, it's wonderful that we can find that out. So that is a different content of regression than the usual extraterrestrial regression. Might have nothing whatsoever to do with extraterrestrials, but we all, I think, have in our own higher knowing, our higher selves, we have that wisdom of what we mainly came into this lifetime for. And it's very helpful for people when they get answers. So they get answers in that kind of a regression. They get answers from their own higher selves, and sometimes from their own spirit guides. Or, as I say, in conducting that kind of regression, going back to your own soul wisdom, your soul knowing that main reason why you came into this lifetime. And sometimes people realize in that kind of regression that they are actually doing what they came to do. And sometimes they realize that, oh, yeah, I have certain abilities, like, for instance, psychic abilities or healing abilities that I just have not really been using. And now it's very helpful to me to know that that's why I came in, to do that kind of work that I actually have the abilities to do. And so those people, after that kind of regression, usually make some changes in their lives in the sense of giving more time and attention to doing that particular kind of service that they have the skill for and that they came mostly into life to do. So we have many themes as a soul which is about to incarnate into a human lifetime. Um, we have a number of different things that we are coming into the lifetime to experience and to learn from and to do. And in many cases, there's one overall purpose, like I am coming to heal, physically heal as many people as possible, or I am here to help people to understand the bigger picture. That was that was the main reason I discovered in Regression on Me. That is the main reason why I came into this lifetime with all the other things I came to do and experience and learn from. There was this overarching reason, which is to help people to know the larger picture, how it really is that we are ongoing, continuing souls who come into one lifetime after another at our own soul choice, and that we are one of millions and millions and millions of souls who exist either here on Earth or as other kinds of beings, other extraterrestrials on other planets or other spaceships. And we have a choice as a soul. And the soul is very willing to learn from experience the things that it senses that it needs to learn. So this is a very interesting concept because when we think about all the people in the world who are doing what we would consider negative, even horrible things against other people, and we might wonder, why would somebody choose to do that? Why would a conscious soul choose to have a lifetime like that? Well, it's for learning through experience. That soul would learn through that kind of experience.
Is that kind of experience for
No, I don't want to do this one again. I want to come in as a different kind of person who is not out to hurt people, harm people, be selfish and greedy. I mean, that's a very, very important learning.
right?
And
I would imagine those people are not looking for regression therapy to find their purpose in life, though.
no. Oh, I think you're absolutely right. They would not be the likely candidate for regression.
Yeah. Well, Play Love Remember says, are you speaking of the theta state when you're talking about regressing somebody, the state of the brain waves. Just wanted to
Oh,
know.
that's a good question. We do have several different brainwave states. And you and I, all of you listening right now, are probably pretty much in the beta state of brainwave activity. And that means that we're, reasonably alert and focused on whatever we're focused on, and fully awake, and, could respond to anything at any moment. And then the next deeper state is the alpha state, which all of us go in and out of many, many times every day. It's the state that we're in when we're driving and we're somewhat aware, hopefully, of the road and traffic, but we're also
I
thinking.
spend a lot of time when I'm driving. That's when I'm getting a lot of my information in that state from my guides and things. And I'm
Yes,
always being told, I hope I'm not on the road when that's happening with you. I'm going, I can drive and that.
right. But in the alpha state, you can be doing one thing, but your mind is very involved in something else. Like you could be washing the dishes in soapy water, and so your body is doing that. There's consciousness with that, but you're also really mostly thinking about some other thing or remembering some other thing. Alpha state is also the state we're in when we're in the movies, and we are sitting there in a chair. We might even be eating popcorn or something, but we're mostly aware of what's going on the screen in the movie. We have some awareness of, yeah, we are sitting there, but mostly we're aware of what's going on in the movie. It's the same thing with reading a book, that we have some awareness once in a while of the position that we're sitting in and where we are, but mostly we're involved in whatever we're reading in the book. It's also the state that we go into every 24 hours, that we're in bed, we're just falling asleep, or we're just waking up from sleep. That's the alpha state. And that's perfectly good for regression work. And it's such a natural state for us to be in. Then the next deeper state is the theta state, which your person was asking about. And that is deeper brainwave activity, slower brainwave activity than the alpha state. And theta is excellent for regression work. It's like being very, very relaxed and yet having conscious awareness. You're not sleeping. And then there is an even deeper state, the delta state of brainwave activity, which is very, very deep. And that is not so convenient for regression work, because in the delta state, it would be very, very hard to form the words to describe to the regression therapist what you are aware of. So theta is great. Alpha is perfectly fine. And these are normal, easy states for us to get into. And
You go back, because I feel like I go back and forth, like under regression, probably from the alpha to theta, back and forth.
yes, you probably do. I think that's a very natural thing. And you don't have to even be aware of that at all.
Right.
You're just in that nice, relaxed state. And again, you would be mostly focused on what is occurring in the event that you are reliving in the regression, regardless of whichever state that you're in. So all of these are natural states of brainwave activity. And in regression, you can be helped to go into the one that really works appropriately for you.
Okay. Well, we've got Rose here who's saying, a deep meditation. I've had several done, and now I'm doing the regressions myself. It's very interesting and rewarding work to help others. Thanks, Rose, for your services there. Thanks for doing
Yes. Yes, wonderful. And how nice that you've learned to do all of this yourself.
Yes. And okay, so all right, there comes my questions. Let's go back to when you started and you had the first time your patient or your client came in and said and went into an extraterrestrial experience, and you're sitting there, Barbara, going, what is going on here? How did that happen? And how did it move from that experience? And you can tell us about that experience to embracing that's what you were going to do.
Well, actually, I had a bit of preparation. I had been a past life regression therapist for several years before anybody came to me for extraterrestrial reasons. So I had been very familiar with doing the past life regression work and regression to various experiences earlier in the life of the person. And I had been aware through a couple of lectures at a whole life expo. I had heard Bud Hopkins speak, and I think the other one was David Jacobs. And they were talking about regressing people to experiences with these unusual beings. And so I had awareness that there was that sort of thing possible.
Right.
But I didn't know until 1991 when a young woman came for regressions to these very traumatizing experiences that she had with unusual beings, often showing up in her room at night. And that's how I started working with this. And we did 6 regressions, 6 different sessions. And out of that, even though she had been totally traumatized at the beginning, but she, after those sessions, she came in all relaxed and smiling and saying, I've decided that I am glad that I am having these encounter experiences. And we had regressed 6 times, each time to a different kind of being and a different agenda that the beings have had.
She had experiences with different kind of extraterrestrials, not just the same ones over and over again.
Right. They were different each time. And in one of these instances, it involved her holding an unusual baby. She was only 21 years old. So she did not have a baby here on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
But she woke up one day and she was actually holding this very unusual looking baby, a hybrid baby. And of course, that totally freaked her out. That was before we started working together. But after these different regressions, each one to a different experience with different beings, she realized that, oh, okay, in some cases, they had really helped her. They had physically healed her. And she got a much bigger picture of what was going on with these various types of beings. And having been healed twice by them, one time of a very severe ear infection, which was horribly painful, and another time by lower back pain, she just realized, there's a lot of good going on here, even though it's freakily weird. And she decided that she actually hoped there would be more experiences. And there probably were. I've lost track of her a long time ago. But anyway, it was very wonderful for me to realize that this work could be so helpful, that the person went from total trauma to wanting to have more experiences with these beings. So then I decided okay, if anybody else wants to come for that, I know now that I can work effectively with it. So that would be fine. I didn't really expect that I would have anybody else coming to me for that. And again, this was 1991, early days for this kind of work.
Yeah.
And yet, that same year, 1991, 5 other people came, unbeknownst to each other. How they found me, I don't know. I think it's because they knew that I did regression work, the past life regression work. And anyway, it began to build up really quite an amazing picture. It's a lot of different kinds of beings coming here and taking people away, and all for a whole variety of purposes and doing a variety of different actions with the people. So then it has just continued since then, amounting to thousands of regressions to extraterrestrial experiences. So there's a lot going on out there.
Yes, there is.
So
Okay,
we,
Barbara Berkman has a great question, and I know you've experienced this. She's going, are some people harder to hypnotize than others? Is and which I know some people are resistant and they just won't relax for um, being hypnotized. So I know you have to face it all the time. And what kind of hurdles or how do you handle that when you can't get somebody to relax because have such a fear of losing control?
right. Well, in my experience, fortunately, that's extremely rare that somebody just is having a hard time relaxing enough to have anything of meaningfulness come into their awareness. But in those very rare cases, I just stay as calm as I can and just help them to relax more and more with lots of assurances that they have control and they can stop it at any time they want. And just I just keep encouraging them to go into deeper and deeper relaxation, and usually they can at that point. And I do understand that for some people, they don't want to lose control, but being hypnotized in a regression is not really losing control, that the person can end it at any time or just say, I'm not comfortable with this. I don't want to go any further. And I accept that and help them to come back out of it. But even that is extremely rare in my experience that anybody wants to end it earlier before the experience is over. And I give people credit for hanging in there in the regression and
I
just
would,
wanted to see it.
yeah, I would think the regression would progress pretty easily after you got them there. But getting that hurdle from them to relax, trust you, no matter what you're saying. In fact, hypnoticity, I would imagine, is going to probably be one of those kind of people, is to get over that hurdle. But I know your voice in itself will help people relax because you're very, very like methodical talking and relaxing, and it's so soothing to hear you
Oh,
that
thanks.
that's going to build some trust on some people. But there are those people that I would think would just really have a hard time just relaxing enough to go into any of those states to have a regression. And so, do you ever face that, or and how do you handle that?
Yes, I have faced that on some occasions with some people. And I just settle in myself. I allow myself to become nice and relaxed about it and realize, okay, this person just needs more help in deeply relaxing and letting go and being willing to find out whatever they had come to find out about. And so I think that helps too, that In other words, I don't panic if somebody is having a difficult time. I realize that some people do.
Yeah, you don't get frustrated with them probably, in which a lot of people do.
No, I don't get impatient or frustrated. In fact, I just noticed that in situations like that, that I just go more into a state of relaxation.
Mm,
And I think that that is sort of contagious. I think the person uh, picks up on that and uh, allows himself or herself to relax a little bit more and a little bit more.
yeah.
And pretty soon they're just open to being aware of whatever that experience was that they are regressing to.
Well,
So I just don't, and people definitely do vary on that and how much they can relax. Definitely, there's a wide variety of relaxation ability amongst people,
right.
and some people, uh, even before I'm finished with the relaxation procedure, they're already picking up information or visual images or words or whatever of whatever they were looking for in the regression. In other words, I do regression for several minutes and then eventually I say I'm going to count from number 10 down to number 1. And when we get down to number 1, you're going to be at that experience at age whatever
Right.
in such and such a place where that happened, and to knowing all the details of that experience. And as I'm counting from number 10 down to number 1 with relaxation suggestions at each count, sometimes a person will tell me later that, oh, when we got down to about number 4, I was already there back in that experience. Or they'll just interrupt me in the counting down and say, okay, I'm there. I'm already there.
That's
And
usually me.
what I'm aware of is, such and such, and we just go on from there. So it does vary a lot in terms of how much people can relax and how much they can access that information. Takes
Well,
longer for some than others, that's all.
yeah. Well, Hypnosis is asking, is this effective virtually, or is it best to be physically present?
Well, that's a great question. And in my experience, it's just as effective to do the session online as it is to do the session in person. Although some people do prefer doing the session in person, and I'm in San Diego, California. So some people are close enough, within an hour or two of San Diego, and they drive here. Or some people are way far away across the United States or even in other countries. And so we do those sessions online. And I always assure the person doing the session online is equally effective as doing it in person. It's
Well,
just that some people prefer to do it in person.
well, I've been often asked this question, especially for doing it virtually, and I'm not sure where it came from because I've never even thought about it. That some people have been told there needs to be another person in the house with you when you're going through the regression therapy. I've always answered that I've never had anybody else in the house, and you're always in control where you can come out of it easily. So I'm not real sure why it's necessary to have or where that came from, that there has to be somebody sitting there with you. Can you address that a little bit? Why?
Well,
How,
I have not been aware of any necessity to have somebody else there in the house. But I do know that some people prefer, they feel safer somehow if they have somebody else there with them. In fact, sometimes when people come to do a session in person here in San Diego, they will bring somebody with them. They usually ask ahead of time, can I bring my sister, or can I bring my husband, or whatever? And that's fine with me if they do, and it's fine with me if they don't, because I know they are perfectly safe.
Right. Okay. So now Teresa has a really a good question. Can you say in general, which is absolutely no way I could, how many different races you've encountered through your sessions? Because I personally have encountered so many different extraterrestrial species that I have no idea. So I'm imagining, Barbara, you're pretty much the same, that it's been a kind of an endless number, that you keep meeting something new every day.
Right. Well, I've never really uh, counted up specifically the different types
Yeah.
of beings that people are having experiences with. But I would, as a rough guess, I would say 40 or 50 different types that I have been aware of through people's descriptions of the beings that they are having experiences with. And there may be more. I mean, there is quite a variety.
There is a lot out there, and every day, I meet some that are even nondescriptive, that we don't even have a category for them.
Right.
So
Yes.
here's Play, Love, Remember, and she has a good question. She's going, what if the internet starts having issues and lost midstream? Which we've experienced this before. And as I've said over and over again, you're in a meditative state or a light dream state. You wake up immediately and you can go back and get your connection again. So
I know. I'm glad you're saying that. It on rare occasions it has happened that the FaceTime we're using, or Zoom, or one of the online formats will, for some reason, fail. And what I have found is that the person who's in regression is much more able than I am in a conscious state to get up and reset the computer or the telephone if it's FaceTime, and we continue from there. I mean, I have been amazed at the functioning that the person regress can do if there's a technical glitch like that.
Right.
And then after it's fixed and we're online again, the person lies down and goes right back into the experience that they were reliving in the regression. I mean,
Right.
I have been absolutely amazed at the functioning of those people, which is better than my own functioning. In terms
Okay. Well, Hypnosis wants how. This is probably a good question too. How long is a typical session?
how long?
Yeah, how long is a
Well,
typical session last?
Yeah, I always tell a person it will be 3 to 4 hours long. Sometimes a little bit shorter, sometimes a little bit longer. But so when the person comes, it's usually a new person whom I have not known. And whether this is online or in person, it's the same thing. It's a person new to me. And so I always ask how they found me. I'm just curious about that. And then they tell me anything that they want to tell me about what they came for, what their concern is. And in that process, which very often takes up to an hour, sometimes even more, they're really hitting the highlights in their life that relate to the reason they came for the regression. And so that's of great interest to me. And during that process, we eventually hone in on what they particularly want to find out about in the regression. Okay, so that takes usually approximately an hour or a little bit more. And then we take a bathroom break, and I explain about regression, the regression process. And then we do the regression, which might go on for an hour, or an hour and a half or 2 hours, depending on all of the detail coming out in the regression. And then I bring the person back out to regular awake, alert consciousness. And then usually we take a few minutes or even several minutes to discuss what they had found out in the regression and what this means to them. And then that's the end of it. So that's why I always tell people the session would be 3 to 4 hours long.
Well, also to prepare for it, you ask them to have 3 or 4 questions ready. Is that correct?
Yes, or the particularly the main reason that they want the regression. Now, some people want the kind of regression where they do have a whole bunch of questions that they want answered. It's not a matter of going back to a particular experience, but it's more information coming from their own higher self, their own soul wisdom. And in that case, I usually do have them send to me by email ahead of time their list of questions, so that in that kind of regression, I can be responsible for asking the next question.
Right.
One seems to have been answered. So that's not the kind of regression where we go back to a particular incident
Yeah.
and relive it. It's more opening up for higher information about them and their life and what they are here for. And
Well,
that's very, very illuminating for people.
I do apologize. That is my cat wanting to go outside that's crying. So, but I've got one last question for you.
Okay.
How did you handle skepticism in the beginning? Because when you started, not many people were doing this kind of work. How
That's
you had to face a lot of skeptics on doing this. And so how did you handle that?
well, I was helped by the fact that with each of these regressions I was doing, they felt so convincing to me and convincing to the people I was regressing that even I understood that most people in the world just did not know about this and would have a difficult time believing it. So I just stuck to what I knew, shared what I could from these experiences. I felt they were true, and the people I was regressing felt they were true. So I just went on with that, knowing that, okay, most people are not going to believe it. So many people in my own family, for instance, uh, they've known that I do this work, but I don't think they, except for one person, a granddaughter, uh, they haven't really shown curiosity to learning more. They could learn so much from me if they
Right.
wanted to. Uh, but I realize that this is not necessarily their path in life
Right.
to be
Exactly.
interested in this. Right. And I respect that.
Right.
I think they respect me that this is my path in life, but they just don't need to ask a whole lot about it.
Right. Okay. Well, Barbara, that's the end of the show. It's already been an hour. I do thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. And as always, have so much information for us. So anyway, thanks everybody for being here. Thanks, moderators, for making this a safe place to talk. I will be on Saturday, and I'll be answering questions for everybody. So just get your questions prepared for Saturday, and I'll see you then. And thanks again, Barbara. See y'all later, everybody. Bye bye.